Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. And I meant to do this video much earlier today because, as everybody knows, breaking news, Julian Assange has been arrested and taken from the Ecuadorian embassy in London. This is definitely dire news, not good news for journalists. Julian Assange is a journalist, a whistleblower, a publisher of secrets that governments around the world would rather be kept quiet. Most importantly, the United States. And this is a sad day, definitely. When journalism has become infotainment, and when journalism has become, at least mainstream journalism has just become a public relations arm of the corporate state. Julian Assange, his voice was quite important, quite needed, and he was doing the job that journalists should be doing. Journalists all over the world should be doing, and now he's going to be silenced, or there's going to be an attempt to silence him. I would also, like to point out that this is would be more evidence that Russiagate is stupid and bullshit, because the whole idea is that Trump conspired with Russia to steal secrets and publish them, and supposedly he was helped to get these things, or there was some finagling to get these things released through WikiLeaks. And now, and as soon as Trump got in the office, Trump and a few of the people in the Trump administration were saying how much they wanted to go get Assange. So I don't, unless there's just no honor among thieves, and that could be the case too. It just doesn't seem to add up to the fact that there was a conspiracy to get this information or get these emails and have them published on WikiLeaks. That was the real story. Is something people have talked about being one of a leak, someone inside Seth Rich, who was conveniently or coincidentally, lost his life in Washington D.C. The other story is that Seth Rich leaked these emails to WikiLeaks and paid the price for it. This is all alleged. This is all conjecture. I don't have time to go into all the links and all the articles and all the stories and all that. I just I'm just talking about this. There's plenty of evidence, and there are plenty of things out on the internet for you to research. If you want to know more about this, you can know more. Let me just quickly read a little bit about this. Oh, well, quote from Trump: "I know nothing about WikiLeaks." President Trump, when asked if he still loves WikiLeaks, told reporters in the Oval Office that he knows nothing about WikiLeaks. It's not my thing, and I know there was something having to do with Julian Assange. I've been seeing what's happened with Assange, Trump told reporters while meeting with South Korean President Moon Jae-in. I know nothing really about him, Trump said of Assange, adding, "That's not my deal in life." Of course, Trump during the 2016 campaign, had many times. I just saw a video compilation of him saying, "Don't you love WikiLeaks? Isn't WikiLeaks great? Oh my God, WikiLeaks is amazing," et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to link this article. It's like an updated CNN page, and they just have new Um, oh, right now, it just updated and said, we're concluding our live coverage of Julian Assange's arrest, but stay with CNN for the latest on the WikiLeaks founder. Will be very interesting to see what happens in the coming days. They arrested him for jumping bail for a charge that has since been dropped. So how's that for trumped up? And Jimmy Dore actually did a good video on why they were kicking Assange out of the embassy. Basically, there's been evidence that Ecuador was, being paid off or bribed or coerced, all of the above, to get Assange out. So they made up some stuff about Assange, doing things against the Ecuadorian government, because of course that's what somebody would do if they were getting asylum from someone, and their entire life depended on it. That's what they would do, is try to trash the people that were giving him asylum. And so they've just made up an excuse to kick him out, basically. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange arrested on unsealed charges in London. This is from HuffPost. British judge also found the WikiLeaks founder guilty on previous bail charges. So they're just going to bring down the hammer. Julian Assange, the controversial founder of WikiLeaks, was arrested Thursday in London on a single conspiracy charge from the United States prosecutors shortly after being arrested and found guilty on unrelated charges from a Swedish rape case that is no longer under investigation. That case has been dropped and was found to be false. The arrests came after the 47-year-old computer programmer's diplomatic immunity status has been terminated at the Ecuadorian embassy. Assange has been holed up in the residence there for nearly 7 years. Amid growing upset from Ecuadorian and British leaders, his dismissal exposes him to extradition to the U.S. Video footage of his arrest showed a ragged Assange struggling against British police as they guided him into a van. "I told you so," he said from his jail cell. Attorney Jennifer Robinson told reporters. Assange pleaded not guilty on Thursday to charges of having breached his bail conditions in the Swedish rape case. Although one of his lawyers argued that he had a reasonable excuse for doing so, Assange would not produce evidence for why he failed to surrender to custody. Magistrates Court District Judge Michael Snow quickly found him guilty, saying his behavior was that of, quote unquote, of a narcissist. He is expected to remain in custody until his May 2nd extradition hearing. So he's been extradited on a conspiracy to commit computer intrusion for agreeing to break a password to a classified U.S. government computer. According to U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia, the indictment claims he took part in a conspiracy with former military intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning. So Chelsea Manning was also held. She was just recently released, but held for a few weeks for not testifying against Julian Assange. They were coercing her to testify against Julian Assange. She would not do that. They put her in jail. Now she was recently released. So I'm going to link these below, and I'm going to move on to some other news. So I'm going to read the story. I saw this. Sandy from Environmental Coffee House posted this on Facebook, and this is. I wanted to give a balanced view on the poaching situation in Africa, or what happened the other day. I know I read some articles about it, and so this is from The Independent, and the title is "Shame on Those Who Rejoiced at the Death of a Rhino Poacher Who Was Just a Poor and Desperate Pawn of the Mega Rich." When many in rural communities struggle to send their children to school or pay medical fees, it is little wonder they can be drawn into being the poor, bloody infantry of the poaching business. On April 2nd, 5 men armed with rifles illegally entered South Africa's Kruger National Park, the Crocodile Bridge area. Only 4 returned to their homes. The 5th was trampled by an elephant and his body eaten by one of Kruger's numerous lions. The 4 would-be poachers who escaped told the dead man's wife and children that he had been killed by an elephant, but that they couldn't find his body. The family contacted KNP headquarters, and the regional ranger there, Don English, launched a search. The man's pitiful remains were found on Thursday, April 4th. Most of the body had been eaten by lions, leaving only his skull and a pair of pants. The 4 accomplices have been arrested and charged with murder. Unusually, in a case where poachers and the 4 accomplices admitted they intended to poach rhinos have died in the process of poaching, the managing executive of KNP, Glenn Phillips, extended his condolences to the family, commenting, "Very sad to see the daughters of the deceased mourning the loss of their father, and worse still, only being able to recover very little of his remains." His sympathy for the man's children was not matched on social media. Some of the comments I've come across include, "He had it coming, excellent way to dispose of wastage, there truly is a God, nature taking apt revenge on poachers, what could be better than that, karma?" And I was one of those people. Understanding, you might say, as many people, myself included, abhor poaching. The writer said, myself including, and myself included, abhor poaching and the killing of rhino for their horns, which are made of compacted hair with no medicinal or other value. Yet buyers in China and Vietnam will pay $60,000 per kilogram for it, believing it to cure cancer, stop hangovers, or because they see it as something to show off to business associates and friends. This demand drives poaching in southern Africa, where the majority of the world's black and white rhino survive. The population of Africa's 2 species numbers between 22,500 and 24,500. Between 2007, when poaching started to surge, and the end of 2018, records show that 8,014 rhinos were poached in South Africa. Men like the one who died a week ago are not the kingpins or smuggling syndicate leaders whose greed leads them to commission crimes to feed the demand from East Asia. The poachers are generally poor, rural dwellers who gain little or nothing from the lucrative safari businesses that operate where they live. Apart from low-paid menial jobs in national parks or safari lodges, they get little benefit from wildlife and its conservation. Instead, it is their children who may be killed as they walk to school by elephants whose livestock is killed by lions. Hyenas or leopards or whose crops are eaten or trampled by elephants, buffalo, bush pigs, or other animals. They suffer rather than benefit from wildlife. This is a weird paragraph, I'm just going to say. Anyways, struggling to send their children, because it's a weird paragraph because it makes them seem like they're victims of wildlife. And I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to think about that. I actually, so are ranchers in the States who, oh, we got to kill these wolves because they're attacking our livestock. Struggling to send their children to school. I mean, it may be different if you're wealthy or you're poor, maybe. Struggling to send their children to school, pay medical fees, or raise their living standards is little wonder they can easily be drawn into being poor, bloody infantry of the poaching business. If they get tracked down, they risk being shot at or, best, imprisoned. Those that commission them, the rich kingpins like Dawi, Gronwald, Hugo Ross, or Dumasano Gwala, hire clever lawyers who keep them out on bail or have connections to the police, judiciary, or high potential political places, and they rarely end up serving long sentences, or their cases never come to court. This is very true. Poaching is wrong. There are no two ways about it, but so is forcing people from the land on which they or their ancestors lived and legally hunted for subsistence for centuries. And so is a system that makes billions a year through high cost or high volume tourism, but returns a pittance to the local communities. These communities deserve help, not vilification, incentives, not ignominy. Successful conservation linked with tourism and other sustainable forms of income generation from wildlife, even dare I say regulated hunting, can work to conserve wildlife, protect habitats, and benefit local communities, as it has through Namibia's community conservancy model, which has helped reduce poaching, increase elephant, rhino, and desert adapted lion numbers, and given local communities a sense of ownership. Empower and incentivize them, and you can cut the poaching kingpins' power over them, and everyone but the criminals can benefit. I like this article. I like that it gives another view of the situation surrounding poaching, and I totally agree that the poachers themselves are not the problem. The problem comes from the demand of what they are poaching. And as with climate change and every environmental concern, there are lots of issues at stake. It's a very complicated situation. And definitely my bringing up of the idea of killing poachers or keeping people out of wildlife reserves, brings up a whole list. You start blaming people for the killing of wildlife, and where does it end? We all are responsible. Many, many people are responsible. The rich are responsible. The wealthy are probably more responsible than anybody else. The corporations, more responsible than anyone else. Colonialism, more responsible than any single person. The fact that we have created this entire system which destroys our planet is the problem, is the main problem. So where do we start? Who do we blame? Who do we hold responsible? All of these are huge issues and difficult to address, but I think the conversation needs to happen nonetheless. I still think that there should be wildlife reserves, and I still think, and I will continue to talk about the fact that we should have wildlife reserves, and where no people should be allowed, where we should stop allowing ourselves to go everywhere and do everything that we want to do. I do sympathize with the plight of poachers being poor and needing the money and being incentivized to do what they have to do. However, everyone on this planet is responsible for their actions, myself included. If I do something to harm someone or harm the planet or harm, I am an unwitting part of the problem, and I am totally aware of that, and I'm fully responsible for my unwitting part and my acknowledged part in the problem of the system. We are all responsible for our actions, period. The end of story. Some people come from very difficult situations, and it's totally understandable that they do desperate things to try and keep themselves alive. That's totally true. It is what it is, but I think the putting of responsibility on those at the top would be a good place to start. Definitely. At those that have their hands on the levers of the system, definitely that's where the responsibility should start. I'm going to move on. Sorry for talking so long about this, but I'm going to continue talking about it because that's what this channel is about. And it's part of the discussion. I think, going forward, there are going to be a lot of discussions. The discussion of whether we should do anything to combat climate change, whether we should just stop all of our efforts and just enjoy ourselves, which is a message carried by quite a few people. Is that, there is a debate, and the debate is, should we do anything about this or should we not do anything about this? Should we, make an attempt? The argument on the side of don't make an attempt is goes all the way to saying like making an attempt or placing blame on people or trying to do things will make things worse, and therefore you're bad for even trying. There's that argument, and the argument from the other side is those who are willing to just lie down in the face of the problem are part of the problem. And so I'm not going to pass moral judgment on either side. I just I think there is a problem. We are going to do something about it because that's what we're going to do. We're not going to not do something about it. And I think passing judgment on those who want to do something about it is kind of bullshit. But I think passing judgment on those who think that, the end is nigh and, let's just be nice to each other while we all go down. I get it. I understand where that's coming from. I don't agree. I understand where that's coming from. So I'm not going to pass judgment on that. I just am not going to agree on that. So in the great debate about what we do going forward, whether we, rewild areas or whether we do, geoengineering or whether we try to go to, zero fossil fuel use or whether we try to tackle the problem of overpopulation or whether, all of these issues, there's going to be lots of people saying, no, you can't do that. Or yes, we absolutely have to do that. And it's going to be a debate. It's going to go forward. The debate is going to go forward. And I think to not have the debate is you're not going to be able to stop the debate. So that's, what it is. I think having the debate is really important. We're going to have to talk about this and we're going to have the best minds and the best arguments around this at our disposal. And I think silencing those who want to have this debate and, shaming people for their views on whatever the side, I think that's the wrong way to go. I think we should just all talk about this. But that being said, we are, hand over fist, we are destroying the planet. And my response to the poachers is just my anger at the fact that, we have very little wildlife left. All the reports come out that we have very, very little wildlife left. So my interest is in wildlife over humans. And I'm sorry if it seems a little rough, but, I'm not telling all humans to go die or, that it's going to be a great day when we all go away. I just think that, we should just stop doing shitty things as soon as possible. And education is the best way, obviously the more we can educate each other around these issues, the better. That's why this channel exists. Child minors. I'm going to read this article from the Daily Mail. Child minors aged 4 living a hell on earth so you can drive an electric car. Awful human cost in squalid Congo cobalt mine that Michael Gove didn't consider in his clean energy crusade. So this is saying, basically this article is saying that, people that want to promote clean energy or electric cars are jerks because they're forcing children into slave labor to mine cobalt. Again, very complicated issue here. Lots of things going on, lots of moving parts. There's nothing wrong with advocating for clean energy. The fact that the people that control where that energy comes from or these minerals come from, the people that control that are totally are not regulated or not held to a higher standard, are allowed to do these things. That is the problem. That's the entire problem. And there's another layer of problem in that, we only have so many of these minerals left in the world. Yes, the creation of clean energy creates other problems, other pollutions, other there are other issues that we have to deal with because of this creation of clean energy. And the creation of clean energy itself will further industrial civilization to do what industrial civilization does, which is destroy the planet. I was watching a Guy McPherson video the other day, and he was talking about, putting space mirrors up, or he's talking about mitigation of how we would go forward. He's like, well, if we can keep the umbrella of aerosols up while we lower our fossil fuel use, if we could figure out a way to balance all this and go forward, and not have a huge spike in temperatures, he was like, yeah, that would be great. I'm all for it. And that would probably allow humans to destroy the planet for 50 more years or so. And that also is very true. But he also conceded that maybe humans could figure it out. Who knows? Hoping humans can get better. Is that hoping humans can get better? Is that Um, is that a futile task or what? So child miner is age 4. So yeah, picking through a mountain of huge rocks with his tiny bare hands, the exhausted little boy makes a pitiful sight. His name is Dorson, and he is one of an army of children, some just 4 years old, working in the vast polluted mines of the Democratic Republic of Congo, where toxic red dust burns their eyes and they run the risk of skin disease and a deadly lung condition. Here, for a wage of just 8 pence a day, the children are made to check the rocks for the telltale chocolate brown streaks of cobalt, the prized ingredient essential for the batteries that power electric cars. And it's feared that thousands more children could be about to be dragged into this hellish daily existence after the historic pledge made by Britain to ban the sale of petrol and diesel cars from 2040 and switch to electric vehicles. It heralds a future of clean energy free from pollution, but though there can be no doubting the good intentions behind Environment Secretary Michael Gove's announcement last month, such ideals mean nothing for the children, mean nothing. Oh, just not thinking about the children. Condemned to a life of hellish misery in the race to achieve his target. I'm not making fun of the plight of the children. I'm making fun of this ridiculous argument of this writer. Dorson, just 8, is one of 40,000 children working daily in the mines of Democratic Republic of Congo. The terrible price they will pay for our clean air is ruined health and a likely early death. So this is not actually taking into account that, the thing that we do currently also is quite destructive and quite dirty and hurts people and harms people, and that people in India and in China are dying because they're breathing in this insane air from all the coal burning and all the industrial activity that's going on there. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I'm going to link this below. You guys can check it out. Moving on to the last few articles. Going to cover a couple things that, for all those that hold out hope and some techno-utopianisms, scientists discover, or, bio-utopianism might be another, a better, or I don't know what, biotechno-utopianism. Is that what we're looking for? Is that where we're headed towards? I don't know. Scientists discover an edible mushroom that eats plastic and could potentially clean landfills. Whether we like it or not, our society has become completely reliant on plastic. From food preservation to water transportation, computer technology to healthcare and medicine, plastic can be found in nearly every facet of the human experience. But as we well know, plastic is a double-edged sword, with massive amounts of plastic waste not only piling up in landfills, but floating in the most remote depths of our oceans and water supplies. And despite our knowledge of plastic's harmful effects on the environment, we become so resilient on plastic that there seems to be no end in sight. In fact, plastic production is growing on a yearly basis and posing a potentially mortal threat to us all. However, a newly discovered type of mushroom could not only play a crucial role in slashing plastic pollution, but could have myriad other uses in addressing the environmental crisis the planet faces. Discovered in 2012 by Yale University students, Pestalotopius Lotiopsis microspora is a rare species of mushroom from the Amazon rainforest that's capable of subsisting on a diet of pure plastic, or more accurately, the main ingredient in plastic, polyurethane, before converting the human-made ingredient into purely organic matter. And not only can this mushroom live off our plastic waste, it can also live without oxygen, meaning that the rare breed of mushroom would make an ideal agent for landfill cleanup, literally from the bottom up. While the idea sounds fantastic, some scientists have expressed hope that the plastic-consuming fungi can form the basis of the community waste treatment centers of the future, replacing our current practice of dumping our trash into centralized massive landfills with small mushroom-centered community composting centers or even home recycling kits. As it turns out, the mushroom isn't alone in the world of plastic-eating mushrooms, and some Some of its plastic consuming kin are even perfectly safe for us humans to consume. Crazy. Well, this could be a good thing. I'm going to link this below. You guys can check that out. And one more. Where did it go? Where did it go? Newly identified bacteria feeds on methane in the atmosphere. This is from newatlas.com. Though it is not the most abundant greenhouse gas, methane is certainly the most potent when it comes to trapping heat within the atmosphere. So while it be far lower in atmospheric concentrations than CO2, there is considerable interest in eating away at its presence. Scientists in Europe have made an exciting breakthrough in this area, isolating a previously unknown bacterium that appears to have a ravenous appetite for the gas. Methane's super radiation trapping abilities make it around. Oh, let's not have any phone calls right now. Methane super radiation and trapping abilities make it around 25 to 30 times more potent than CO2 as a greenhouse gas, and its spread of known sources continuing to expand. We know it can come from biomass burning, leaking gas facilities, and recently learned that the world's reservoirs are emitting 25% more methane than previously realized. Belching cows are a well-known source of methane, and we've seen a number of interesting research projects aimed at curbing their emissions. This includes tweaking their diets to incorporate seaweed or tropical leaves that disrupt the gut enzymes that produce methane, with some promising early results. But what do we do about the methane that is already in the atmosphere? Scientists have known for some time that microbes exist in soil that are consumers of methane, acting as natural methane sinks and playing an important role in balancing out the greenhouse gas effect. But methane exists in far lower concentrations in the atmosphere than it does in soil. So there could be microbes hungry. Could there be microbes hungry enough to subsist on only the trace amounts found in the air? While scientists had suspected that there were, it is only now that they've been able to identify them, describing a bacterium called Methylococcus gorgona that appears to only need air to thrive and may take out a number of pollutants while it's at it. The bacterium Methylococcus gorgona has surprised us all very much, and it is extremely versatile and can not only gain energy and carbon for biomass production from the methane in the air, as we have shown with the help of the nanosims of the University of Vienna, but also fix nitrogen in the air, explains Michael Wagner from the University of Vienna and the author on the study. Carbon monoxide and hydrogen were other gases to feature as part of the bacterium's metabolism. And not only did the scientists identify the microbe, they were able to come up with a technique to cultivate it in the lab, which they say could be applied to develop similar organisms. While there is a huge leap between identifying and replicating this microbe and tackling the incredibly complex problem of climate change, scientists now have a new avenue to pursue in their efforts to stem the tide. And in the near term, they write, better understanding of the microbes making up the methane sinks will allow us to better preserve their natural gas trapping abilities. This research was published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. I'm going to link this below for your reading pleasure. If you would like to reread or peruse that article yourself, you can do so. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.